positive male role model in the household or around you. So I want to tie that into like the whole toxic masculinity, toxic femininity thing. So no,
Good, good.
I talk about that all the time because
All the time.
all the time because like you said, we're going off the premise. He and myself to a certain degree went off the premise of women are like this because of our moms, maybe our aunts, and just maybe girls that grew up in our neighborhood. And then you get out, and it's like, whoa, but I thought you like this. And it's like, nah, that totally different. It's like, whoa, like, but then you get the blowback. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of brothers now are like. We getting the blowback, and it's like, and some of us, not all of us, but some of us are just like, I'm not trying to diss you. It's just this is what I've been taught that you all were about. And then if we get this, and some of us get the blowback, like, you ain't this and you ain't that, and da da da. Who do you think you are? And it's like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And and that's what I wanted to talk about as well. It's like, where is that coming from? Like, what's up with that? Just to get some insight on that part. If you have it.
I got it.
Yeah.
I want to hear yours first. The floor is yours.
Now I'm gonna go first. Okay. That's a long. I think we need to do a segment just on that alone, brother. We gotta break that thing down into its element. Oh man! All right, so let's go. Let's have fun with this. Get educated at the same time. Yeah. So. I was just talking. I talked to the young men. I do a program called Man of Purpose. It's kind of like Passport to Manhood with young men. And, we talk about relationships. And all right, so let's go to its origin. So first I want to dispel the myth out there from as part of what my experience has been, but it's also, excuse me, partly supported by data, facts, and statistics, right? Jesus Christ, how do we start this? So women have been raised to believe, and I know I'm speaking in reference to, I'm not a woman myself, so I could be wrong. So let me put this out here. And I definitely want to give the floor to Miss Nishana. I want to make sure she definitely gets some input on this. But from a male's perspective and from the information I'm gathering, from what I've learned personally, it's a combination of all these things. And let me give my flowers to women first before I dive in. Let me sure I do this right. All right, so I get, and this has always been my viewpoint from the beginning, because my mom gave me a good example of a woman, and so much I'm going to dump in. So I'll say this. So from as early as you can remember, before World War II, women had to depend on men to survive. I get it. And I also bought into the waiting to exhale, the color purple, and all that stuff, right? Where I was, like you said, we didn't have any positive role models growing up in our lives. So the only example we had to refer to was what we saw on TV and what the media. That's why the media is so powerful, right? Yeah. Let me be careful on that, because I don't want them coming after me. But right before World War II, to an extent, women, at the time, let me put it this way. At the time, there was a time when women had to depend on men for their survival. Okay? And because we're human, what naturally happened was men thought they had carte blanche. And to a large extent, I don't know what specific percentages, but would take advantage of their woman because they know they had no other options. Now, had it been a scenario where women had other options, which we're going to get into today, what has transferred today, I don't think men, by and large, I think the relationship dynamic between husband and wife and men and women during that stage would have been slightly different. But because women had no other recourse or no other options, they had to depend on their man, the man would take advantage. Mm-hmm. I'm talking across cultures, black, right, white, the whole thing. So what happened was, because there's always a cause for an action. You can't deny that, right? There's every action has a reaction. So, and trying to keep this brief, when World War II came and women started to work and they started to provide for themselves, it was like, oh, I don't have to tolerate this abuse or living conditions under this man. Again, understanding that the man knew that the woman had no other choice, no other option, so he would come in if he felt, you hurt the ones you love. So if the man had a hard day at the job, he would come home. His wife is, submissive, supportive, whatever the case may be, and he takes out his frustration on her because we're human. Nobody's perfect. That's what we did. So now when women started working, getting into the workforce and realized that they could survive on their own, I think that's where that narrative came. I think media, you talk about like the over exaggeration thing, and they overdid it, and that's where we got. I think I'm trying to be brief with this, but that's where we got the narratives of The Color Purple. I think that's where we got the narratives of Waiting to Exhale, right? And then we got women who may not have been in relationships that toxic, but bought into that narrative, like, oh, must be how men. Oh, thank God that my man didn't abuse me, but all things considered, that could have been my case, or that's a majority of the men that's out there. And I think that, and I'm fast forwarding, so I'm not being too specific. So now we get to where we at today with these women, like men ain't shit, men are dogs, modern women, blah 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 blah. Right? So, damn, that's so much. So now we in a situation now, Cal, where, okay, men are like, damn, all right, I made a mistake. I'm not like that though. Blah, blah, blah. And I think black men in particular, especially now, are very that's why I don't, and I think, and this is where I'm coming from now. I think now through the data, facts, and statistics is showing that more women are divorcing their men. It's 70% of women who are filing for divorce. Right. And then if they're educated, because now these women are in the workforce, now they're getting their education, they're getting their degrees. So if they're educated women with degrees, that percentage jumps up to 90%. So it's 70 to 90% of women who are filing for divorce. So if that's the case, that means there's 30 to 10% of men who are filing for divorce. All right. So not as many men are filing for divorce as women are filing for divorce. So that says something to me. I register that. Like, who's taking marriage seriously? Who has a lot more to lose in marriage? Men or women? Obviously, it's not women, because they're the ones filing for divorce. And there's an incentive to that, right? And then we get into family court, we get into alimony, we get into child support, that whole thing. So now, oh, Jesus Christ. So now I don't buy too much into that narrative that men are the abusers in relationships, particularly black men. I don't buy into that, because we all know that even if a man calls the police about domestic violence, to a degree, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because of the biology, men are stronger than women. So when police go to that residence for that domestic violence call, they're automatically thinking the man is at fault. They're going to take the woman's point of view and the woman's side, by and large. I'm not saying all, but by and large. So I think if a man realizes that, and especially after they know what the world is like, especially after we're dealing with George Floyd, and the world is against him, I don't think a man is going to be that stupid to abuse his woman. Definitely not putting no marks on it. I know women are darker complexion, so you really can't see the abusers. But I think with that narrative, I think black men in particular are more inclined to be like, you know what? Nah, forget it. I'm not, when she's arguing or what have you, and we know stories where women are the ones with the verbal abuse first. They start, I'm just saying, I could be wrong. You'll correct me if I'm wrong with that. And, they get into the argument, and I'm sure there's a tussle in this exchange, but that's after she kicked him in the stomach. I know this personally, and punched in his face, or right? But I don't think men are the ones that initially are ready to come home. And now I'm not saying all men, but I'm saying black men in large are not the ones to initiate that violence, or the case may be. I'm just saying it, right? So these are the things, and I'm flying all over the place with this. So thank y'all for being patient with me. But I'm saying in this dynamic, Kyle, I think this is what we're dealing with now. Whereas women are like, men ain't shit. Modern women, I could do it on my own. I don't need a man, blah, 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 blah. And men are more like, you know what? I don't need this. I'm not trying to get, I don't need marriage. I'm fine on my own. If I get married, I got to deal with this sexless marriage. I got to deal with sexless marriage. I got to deal with she divorcing me if I lose my job, which is a given. I know that personally. I got to deal with, just the work, the battle in the field, and then coming home to, I can do without this. So I think that's what,
my lonesome. You know what I'm saying? I could do
I do bad on my lonesome. So to close this out, Kyle, to answer to finish this, and Nashawn, I want to get your input on it. I know I was all over the place. I'm gonna try and give it a succinct summary. I think that the toxicity in regards to toxic masculinity is directly related to that dynamic where women feel what I just explained. They don't need a man. They can do it on their own, right? Men feel, okay, if that's how you view me, then I could do without a relationship. And I think that's what's tying into the dysfunction of what we have in relationships, and in particularly the Black relationship.
Shauna, you still there?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Yeah, it's messing up.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm speaking some stuff right there. I'm getting.
Oh my goodness! Yo.
No, but because it's more. You can't. I don't think you can just explain. I don't think it's a simple answer to. I think there's a whole bunch of things that tie in. You know what I mean? I really think. I think it's very complex.
Yeah, Ms. Holmes, what's your take on that? Like, I mean, he says a lot, you know, but
I tend to do that, man. I tend to do that.
but it is a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's saying a lot, but it is a lot. You know.
Yeah, it's that was a lot to digest.
No, what wasn't true? Like, let me help.
I don't think anything you said wasn't true. So I'm the type of person, everyone's experience is their experience. So I'm never gonna belittle your experience. That's your experience. Whether we agree or disagree, that's your experience.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna belittle that. But I just feel, I think on the other side, it's so funny because even having these conversations, it's like men and women kind of do think the same, but just in a different way. And the same thing that you want, we want. So I know me personally, being raised in a single parent household and by a woman is like, well, you know, you got to get a career, you got to do what you need to do, because you got to be able to take care of yourself, right? That's where you focus, right? So I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna get my education, I'm gonna make sure that I take care of myself. You, as a woman, I'm gonna talk from my point of view. I can get so focused into that it's hard for me to think that maybe that may not be. It's like you get one channel, like you get so focused on where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do that sometimes I think it makes it hard for you to bend when you're trying to bring another human in. I don't know what's going on with my computer.
Right. It's trying to act up.
My computer is freaking out right now. It's saying, no, don't answer.
Uh-oh. It's trying to get you, Kayode. It's trying to get you. What's going on?
No, everything he said, I believe is valid. I really believe 100% is valid. But I just think on our end, especially as an African-American woman, you are like programmed to do that. You are programmed to be independent. You are programmed to want to do on your own. Now you have to have the realization. So that's just me personally. I had to come to the realization of what that would look like with me wanting a mate, right? But that's something I have to work on with my inner self to break down those walls and to see what that would look like. And it's not easy, right? So I think that's why a lot of women just give up, because it's like, oh my goodness, I already went through this process. Like, I don't want to go through this process again. Like, I don't want to do this. Why can't you just be ready? We just both meet and we just both ready. Let's go. And I think that's that one track mind where you just been like, do this. So anything that slows that down becomes a hindrance. And I feel like it gets to the point of like, even though it's human nature, you know, we all go through changes and different things happen in life. It's like, I was programmed to keep going. Like, I just can't slow this down. Like, you know, I can't backtrack. And I know for me personally, one of my girlfriends has said to me, you know, the more educated you get, you know, it's gonna get harder. And I'm like, oh Jesus, I'm not educating myself, like, because I noticed, especially after I got my master's, I was really like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going back to school. To be transparent, I went to school because I was told to go to school, and I did everything that way. So whatever I do after that will have to be purpose driven. That's where I was at. So that didn't go over too well, you know, with my mom and stuff. Like, no, I see this, I see that. I'm like, well, God got to come down himself to tell me this is what he sees in me, because I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I just don't want to just keep achieving, and I don't figure out who the heck I am. Like, what am I doing this for?
Yes.
So I know for me personally, I'm slowly having that revelation in my 40s, you know, where it's like, all right, Nashana, backtrack at what you're doing. Is this aligning with your purpose? Is this aligning where you believe God is taking you, right? So I think that's why I'm having the moments of, okay, Nashana, you're a little too independent. Or, okay, Nashana, you need to work on this. Now, everyone doesn't have those moments, and it requires such vulnerability because it's tearing me apart, honestly. You know, it's like when you think that you just on the path of doing it and you just sit back and you digest and you look around, it's like, so I'm at that moment with me. So I can only speak as a woman on my behalf, as to why it seems like so many women are like deucing, is because a lot of us are programmed to be independent and to do. So it's like anything that's gonna hinder that, I don't have time for. And that's bad. That's so bad. You know, I'm not saying that's a good thing. And it's hard. I'm not gonna say it's easy. It's hard to stop that thought process from happening. It's really, really hard. So that's what I go back to when I was saying capacity in the beginning. That's where I believe God has me journeying through, like really just analyzing me, and then to really look at people for who they are. And again, if that's something that I can't deal with, that's my non-negotiable. I can't deal with it, you know, that's fine. But it's hard. It's a reprogramming. So it's hard. It's hard work.
Gems, family, gems. Y'all, they dropping gems on here.
Let me interject real quick, Kyle, before you interject. Let me applaud you, Nashana, on that. Because as you were just speaking, there was a certain glow or energy that came out that, in my opinion, I think breaks the tension or breaks the boundaries. And Cal actually shared this with me, and it started to resonate when he shared this with me. And what he said was, when you're forced to be honest, when you're honest with somebody, they're forced to be honest with you. Not because the person is forcing you to be honest with them. There's a certain power that comes from truth. There's a certain power that comes from vulnerability. And that's that dynamic that takes place there. So when we're in conversation and that truth starts to come out, and you start to be vulnerable and you start to open up, it does something in the person who's listening. It affects them in a certain way. And as a result, it causes them to have to return that honesty and vulnerability back. And as you were sharing that, and as you said, you know, it's difficult, it's hard, it's not easy. It connects. That connects. So I wanted to take my hat off to you and thank you for sharing that, because if it connected to me, and I'm sure it connected with a lot of other people.